this morning's going to be a little bit different. How many of you guys know that one size fits all is not one size fits all? How many of you guys have ever tried to put on something that's one size fits all and you're like, well, not for me? So I'll say first things, yeah. Yeah. We'll just leave that alone. I was going to tell a joke, but I'm like, no, don't. Don't tell any jokes. Our church structure is not normal, right? I remember when God began saying, hey, I want you to be the lead pastor. And I'm like, but I'm a music pastor, and this is a terrible idea. And the Lord has made it work. But people look from the outside looking in, they look at this structure, and they say, how is it working? And it's because our desire to serve and humility and a bit of iron sharpens iron and a bit of believing that the situation God put us in wasn't for us to change everything else around us, right? If the staff is not like you, the point isn't to beat them into little versions of yourself, right? And I would say that probably is one of the best analogies that we're going to be tackling this morning is when it comes to marriage and it comes to marriage structures, Nick, PT, myself, and some of the other staff were talking, our marriages are all so different as far as the structures of the home and does what. So first of all, I'm going to redeem Sarah for a second. Sarah says she doesn't cook, but she actually does. But I love to cook. And that's kind of what we're talking about. In the staff, we have also found that when it says that the body of Christ is a body and the pieces are supposed to be fit together by the Holy Spirit, not some man-made structure says the woman's over here and the guy's here and this is how this all works and that's the way it's always going to be. And so this morning we're going to have kind of a panel discussion. It's going to be a blast, hopefully. And we're going to kind of share with you an inside look at our homes. Pastor Nick is going to moderate this. You want to come up and kind of lay the groundwork? PT and Kathy, you want to come up and grab a seat? And Sarah, sorry. Oof.
Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, we do have a rather exciting announcement. For those of you that don't know, what really kicked off this series of Marriage with a Mission was the events that we started last year. And we have our first Marriage with a Mission event coming up on Friday, March 13th at 6 p.m. We are very excited to have Pastor Brian Bill from Edgewood Church coming and sharing with us again. If you were not there when he shared last summer, he did a phenomenal job. I cannot oversell that enough. And this time he is speaking on 5 misconceptions I wish I knew before marriage. He has shared an excerpt with me of a portion of his scripture, and as the kids are saying, it is going to be fire. If you don't know, that was last year? Okay, sorry. 2025 Nick came out there for a second. It's $20 per couple. That pays for a catered meal. That pays for childcare for your kids. We have childcare provided and dinner for them. We get them pizza because kids love pizza. And that also gets you the guest speaker for the night. If you don't know, we come in here. It's set up as a date night. We want you guys to dress yourselves up a little bit. Think business casual, up casual. And we just really want to doll on you guys and just make you guys feel served, get you a couple of hours away from the kids, focused on each other and focused on community. And the great thing is the couples that show up here tend to be people who are curious about this particular topic and have questions themselves, and it creates a great time for discussion. That's my quick pitch. Registration is live now. You can go to our website or Church Center. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you can get a hold of me. My email is all over the website, or you can call the church office first thing tomorrow morning. So with that said, we can get started, huh? I'll take my seat back here. First topic that we'll be covering this morning is finances. We had a series of questions we were thinking. I'm going to hand it over to PT and Kathy to kick things off. Kind of the questions that we had and we were kind of working through is, how do you guys handle finances in their home? Is there someone who is kind of the big picture person? Is there someone who handles the day-to-day? Who does bill pay, which PT said he had to figure out what that was this last week? And is there an amount you guys have to talk? Is there an amount of money you guys have to talk before you spend it? So I'll hand it over to you guys.
Oh, I get to go first. Well, as far as paying the bills, Tim takes responsibility of that, but I take a portion of it, and I get to buy the groceries, and we set a budget, and this is what we have set to buy groceries, toiletries, paper products, and I like to do paper. So I have my paper sheet, and I know exactly where I'm at, and it's visible to me, and that helps me keep on track.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so Kathy paid all the bills and took care of the savings and writing our tithe and giving checks until Riley was born. And we're celebrating Riley's 25th birthday today at our home. He turns 25 this week. And so Kathy asked me if I would take over handling all the finances when he was born. And our season of life is changing. Now I'm concerned. I mean, we start having different ideas now. I'm not in fear. I just want to be wise. I want to be out ahead of it. And I think, okay, if the Lord decided to take me home anytime soon, would Kathy know how to take care of all this? And the answer is...
Help family.
Yeah, it'd be rough. The boys would help her. So now we're in this idea of maybe, 25 years ago to now, things have changed a lot electronically and all this stuff. And so now she has no desire to learn it. I don't have a huge desire to teach her. So we're in a little quandary here. But so are we open-ended on all those questions just to talk at random here for a moment? Okay, so another minute or two, and then I'll turn it over to somebody else. But and jump in here, Kath. I'm the spreadsheet guy. I am known for that. And so Kathy and I work together at the end of every year for the next year. We basically know what our income is going to be, and we have a spreadsheet. And I do our checkbook in Excel, and then I have columns with a budget on the top of every column for each area that we track. And we track every penny. We even have one miscellaneous column for little things that we can't have a whole column just for a budget for that. So, but my thing is, we track every penny. It's all God's money. It all belongs to Him, and we're going to be a steward of every penny. Now, I know I go way too far, but Kathy's gotten used to me, and so she deals with it. And so when we write a check or use a credit card or whatever, it goes in there, and we deduct from our grand total, and we put that amount in the column. And then at the very end of that column, on every one of them, it automatically gives me the percentage of what we've spent in that column for the year. So I know where we're at and what we have. And that way, Kathy has some freedom, as long as we have cash flow, to spend in budget. And when it is out of the ordinary things, what do we do when it's out of the ordinary? How do we communicate, would you say, on that?
Well, we have a set budget for the year, but the cash flow for the month we keep track of. But if it's within that cash flow, then we feel comfortable we can go ahead. But we try to be better at communicating. So if we're not for sure, we will connect with one another, either call, text, and talk about it a little bit. And if it's like, yeah, that's a great deal, go for it. But sometimes as if it's something big, this is one thing we've really tried. If we're really excited about it, okay, are we going to jump into it and buy it? No, let's push pause. Let's pray about it, give it a day or two. And a lot of times we go back and we're like, it's just not right timing, and we just don't do it. So we put God in the middle of that.
Amen. Last thing on this is my grandpa convinced me when I was a young guy that consumer debt is bad. And so we decided, when we didn't hardly make you guys, it's all relative. I started in full-time ministry for $30 a week in room and board. That's where I started. But that's not saying a whole lot. $30 bought a lot more then than it does now. But the idea was, at $30 a week, I had a column for giving, a column for saving. I have saved my whole life. To God be the glory. And live off the rest. And we have worked very hard at not having consumer debt. For me, if you ask me to define consumer debt, it's anything you buy that goes down in value and doesn't increase in value. To me, that's consumer debt, and I don't want to be in debt for consumer. As soon as we got our first car paid off, oh, that was glorious. We decided, okay, keep making those car payments to ourselves so that someday, because this car is going to wear out, we'll be able to spend the money we've saved in our car fund and then put a trade in and the money we have in that account so we don't have to go in debt again for a car. And now, we'll be married 39 years this year, and we've been pretty good about that. And we drove a lot of old cars, and we don't care, because I'd rather drive an old car than be in debt. All right, we're done.
That's awesome. For those of you who don't know, this is my wife, Kim, who doesn't get on stage a whole lot. And so I'm going to hand it over to you to give a perspective on our financial situation.
Great. I am also a spreadsheet person, but I think I need to have some things to learn. We use the Every Dollar app, I think it's called. It's the Dave Ramsey app. Line by line, we have everything from, Nick's haircuts to diapers, when we were using diapers. Every little thing goes on there, so we're not surprised at the end of the month. And we had to do that because we like to use our credit card. We have one credit card that we use as our debit card. And so I have to be really diligent to go every couple days and pay off that balance. Otherwise, it can get really slippery really quick. And we've been there, and so we've learned from our mistakes. But we like to do that so we can use those rewards for vacations, free hotel stays, that kind of a thing. But while I do the day-to-day stuff, he does more of the long-term, I don't even know what any of them are called, the retirement stuff, because he does it all, and I don't have to worry about it. But I'm thankful for that. So we have retirement. But he does that, I do that, and I think there's just a big trust built in after, almost 11 years. So he kind of looks at our account once in a while. He communicates to me about our investments, and I'm like, cool, all right. So.
I would say that Kim's kind of underplaying just even her role. We started out, we were terrified of credit cards, I'd say, in the beginning. We just grew up that way, and I'd seen what consumer debt had done to people, but we just tried to grow in discipline, and I think she nailed it. There's a degree of trust that we really had to grow in over the last 11, 12 years. This is not a brag. This is a detriment in me. I can tell you the last time I looked at our checking account. The reason being is because my wife has done such a diligent job of making sure day-to-day things are done. I just found out on Thursday we use the Every Dollar app. I just found out we have a haircutting budget. She's been doing all of that. I use the card, it goes through, and things are good, right? But no, on the other side is I have an uncle who did very well financially, and I would always pick his brain. He taught me a lot about how to invest in your future, Roth IRAs, all that sort of stuff. And so I would just pick his brain. And then we also have a guy that helps us here at the church. Every year, I lay everything out to him. Here's what we have. What can I be doing right now to think about our future, to think about when I'm 65, 70 years old? He tells me. I go then and talk to Kim, and I say, hey, you're going to see a chunk of change leaving. This is what it's for. This is what it should be doing to us. Steve's going to take care of us. Or it's my Uncle Rick. Hey, Rick is telling me that we should think about this. We should be pushing things this direction. And we've just listened to people. I am not a financial wizard whatsoever. I've just looked at people. I'm like, man, they're doing really well for their age. I want to be in their position. With that has come a lot of discussions on how we do things, like how we buy cars, how we buy houses. I remember for this last house, the amount we were approved was like insane. I'm like, yeah, we're not going to a house that big, and we just decided to live beneath our means. And then we also just grew up in a house where your home was your investment. To appreciate it, to work on it. I just grew up in that sort of home. And so Kim has really trusted me, even in that area, to say like, hey, we're going to buy a house. It's going to be modest, but we're going to work on it. We're going to make it something that we can actually make money on. And then you've heard me say it here. Right now, we have no consumer debt. We don't have a car payment. My car is a 2009. Yours is a 2014-ish. 13. And, but we've decided that's the priority in our life. We want to be flexible. We want to be able to give our kids opportunities that maybe we didn't have as kids. And maybe it's a fear thing. I don't know. We've always just thought, hey, we want to be able to stay afloat where the bottom just to fall out. You know what I mean? We want to have 3 months of being able just to exist and all of that. And then on top of that, tithing has never been a negotiable in our relationship. We have always tithed no matter what. You guys have heard the story. We had $18 to our name at the beginning of our marriage at one point, and we still gave to the Lord. We still gave to his church. We still try to be as generous as humanly possible. And I'll say this, that the Lord has given us 8, 9, 10-fold what we ever deserve because of that faithfulness. So yeah, that's kind of anything else to fill in there? I think that's it. The next topic of conversation is discipline. We get off the hook on that one because we raise a 3, 5, and 7-year-olds, and they don't do anything ever, right? But I'm actually going to hand this over to Pastor Jeff and Sarah first. What is it like disciplining and raising 3 young men?
Yeah, so first of all, to encourage you guys, Sarah and I don't have any spreadsheets. Nope. And, or apps, or haircutting budget for me. I don't have to do that one.
Cologne budget.
It's a cologne budget, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm balding, but I smell great. Yeah. Sarah, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? What do you want to do?
You can go first.
Okay, so as we were asked about this, I think my perspectives have changed. How many of you guys know that when you start disciplining kids, you have defaults? That may not be right. And I just want to start with the first mistake I made in disciplining kids was trying to teach my wife how to be a father. It was a big mistake. I'll just say, like, boys and children in general listen to men differently than they do women. That's just true. Father figures can step in, and I kept trying to train Sarah of like, well, this is how you do it. And it's like, I realized in the beginning of our, I don't know if it was with Levi all the way through Simon, or if it was just with Levi, the Lord spoke to me and was like, hey, stop trying to teach your wife how to be a father. And so that was the first mistake. And the second mistake was kind of reactionary discipline of just always trying to get tasks done and get people moved from one place to the other. There was something I wrote in my phone that external discipline is meant to create self-discipline. And so already we have a 12-year-old, we're kind of transitioning. There's times where we have to tell them what to do, but now we're transitioning into the whole perspective of never hurried, never worried, never forced. We never want to create fear in our kids. We never want to rush them, and we never want to force them. That's the ultimate goal, is that they would choose to do things on their own. So what we do is at this point in time, more than shouting orders, we're laying out consequences and decisions, and there is discipline involved, but it's definitely different than, how old are your kids?
7, 5, and 3.
7, 5, and 3. We're kind of transitioning to a different era where we understand that this dude right here, it scares me to death. In 4 years, he's going to be driving in and put a key in the ignition and just drive off from the home.
That ain't right.
That is not right at all. It's terrifying. At that time, we'll let you know, and we can all stop driving, okay? We will just, we'll put a big sign on top of his car. No, we're just getting to that place where it happens fast, of where treating your young adults like children begins to backfire. And I was the first one where I'm like, okay, if I don't stop being reactionary and just trying to get them to move and trying to get them to do and try to get them to go here and get this done, I can be a little overbearing. And so Sarah has brought balance in that. Do you want to talk for a second, baby?
Yeah. Okay. There was sorry, I should know this. It was a struggle, I would say, as a mom with 3 little kids. They never listened. I'm like, I feel like I could.
How far are they apart real quick?
Oh, okay. So Levi and Simon are 19 and a half months apart, and then Judah and Simon are 21 months apart. So we were like a little crazy, you know. We did that on purpose, but we knew it was going to be a challenge. But we were like, okay, let's just. It sounds terrible to say, but like, let's just get it done and like be out of all the phases at the same time. I know that sounds terrible, but it wasn't meant to be like that. But
I was 34.
well, Jeff wanted to be done having kids by the time he was 40. So he is 7 years older than I am. So yeah, we had to hurry. But I will say that it is different raising littles than it is raising, he's 12, right? 12 and a half. There was, I will say on my part, a lot of reactionary discipline in the beginning, which is something that I've worked through and tried to work with my kids on. And something I tried to teach them was that I'm wrong sometimes and that I apologize. So if I would be reactionary and like kind of lash out of frustration or anger or hormones or whatever it is, I would apologize. I'd sit them down and say, look, I'm so sorry, like this was wrong. I should not act that way. I shouldn't have said that. And also I had to learn that they're also, this sounds weird to say out loud, but they're also people and they have choices to make. And still something that I work through to this day is they have choices to make and consequences, right? And and things like rewards that come from that. But everything they do is not necessarily a reflection of me as a person, right? And that's hard. And I still struggle with that sometimes, but it's something that the Lord's helping me through because they're gonna make mistakes. They're people. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. So I've had to learn that I can't expect perfection out of them. Jeff's always like, listen, you expect every single thing to go right every single day. They're boys and they're kids. They're not gonna listen all the time. They're gonna do what they want, all these things. So I've had to adjust my expectations and also have a lot of grace on them because they have a lot of grace for me, to be honest. So.
Yeah, I was just thinking, so just to get into some logistics real quick, swatting is like, or spanking is our last resort. We use it very rarely anymore, and it's not for it's not for spilling milk or messing up at school or, it's discipline as far as like spanking, and we will still use the corner every once in a while. We're like, dude, it's not bad enough for a spanking, but man, like I'm gonna take whatever thing you're playing with. Spanking is strictly for disrespect and rebellion. If I'm like, don't do this, and it's like, when I'm like, don't touch this right here, and they're like, that's when the spankings come out. Like I'll do what I'm gonna do, and I'm like, you're gonna do what you're gonna do with your bottom on fire. We're a little bit old school in that, and we don't shy away from that. There's, again, where we're saying not one size fits all. We have 3 boys that if we didn't spank, they'd kill each other. And so which one's better, that I swat them and they have a fear of dad, or that they actually don't have a fear of dad and then kill one another? So that's the logistics of like, we do swat. I would say it is very rare in our home at this point in time. I think it ping pongs over to you.
Yeah, you guys are in a little bit different of an area. I don't imagine you're swatting Riley or Reese at this point, but can you give us perspective on what it was like and looking back?
Yeah, so I had to calm down because I grew up in a world where my grandpa tried to tell me that when these boys get a little older, you've got to daily beat the out of them. So he wasn't saved. And so I had to kind of calm down from that. And we did spank, but not very often. I had one son that the threat of a spanking seemed to take care of him. The other one, not so much. So looking back on it, I think, and maybe Kathy, you can chime in a little bit on this, is when we were communicating well and working on things together and in agreement on discipline, on correction, on what we expected from them in the home, when we were together, when we were one voice, and I agree with Jeff on that. Kathy, she's a wonderful mom. She would make a terrible dad. Thank God. But we needed each other because sometimes I was the salt and she was the salve, But Kathy stepped up, and I learned to calm down, and we learned the value of communication. We didn't realize these little boys, by the time they're about 2.5, they know how to work us like crazy. It's unreal how they can work you over, and they know who to come to for what. And so looking back, the biggest mistakes that we made were when we were not communicating well. And the biggest successes that we had were when we were communicating well. So, I mean, that's one area. Anything you want to chime in on that?
Well, you were saying, you had to calm down a little bit, because we were all on the same agreement with discipline and communicating with our boys. We did spank sometimes, took away privileges. But the one thing that I had to work on myself was my voice would get loud and big and bold. And one time the boys were like, "Mom, we hear you just fine." And I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that I was more yelling than I was communicating because I wanted my point to get across. So that's something I had to work on, especially with boys. They were busy. I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, they like to wrestle, they like to tumble, they like to get dirty." She goes, "Honey, water and soap is cheap, and they're boys, and they will do that. So if you want to give them 5 minutes, you can wrestle, and then it's over, and then go do something else." So I tried different examples that my mom had given me and Dad to help me navigate through that. But I was trying to think, I wanted to add, okay, all right, hold that thought.
Homeschool.
Oh, yes, and the reason I had to kind of like get a good balance with that is because I homeschooled the boys. And so Tim was gone to church and ministry, working at the office. So I had to ask God, help me to communicate well and to be a mom, but also put on the teacher's hat during the day and help them navigate through their studies. And it was a challenge, but I felt like God helped me in some areas to improve in that.
One thing I'll add, and we'll be done with this segment, but one thing is if you were to ask me what is the biggest thing that we learned early on about training, disciplining our sons, we adopted them at birth. And I was later in life, like Jeff, Riley, I was 40 when Riley was born. And, the biggest thing, I watched something with a lot of wonderful parents. I watched them, without them realizing it, lie to their children over and over and over again. They would give them threats. And don't do that again. If you do that again, and I could tell by watching some kids that didn't mean a thing to them. Them kids knew that's never going to happen. I mean, they knew. And I told Kathy early on, I said, you know what? Let's not make empty threats. Let's back off. Let's not discipline out of correction. My dad, after he got saved, when it was spanking time, which was rare for me, because I listened. Tammy never listened. I listened. But Dad would send me to my room and tell me, "I'll be there in a little while to take care of this with you." That 10 minutes waiting for him was the longest 10 minutes of my life. Years later, Dad said, "What I was doing, son, is I was praying and making sure my heart and my emotions were in check, because I wanted to discipline you in a godly way, not out of my flesh or out of my emotions." And Dad would make a whole deal out of it. He wouldn't just spank me, but he would pray with me. He'd hold me. He'd tell me something I didn't understand until years later. He'd say, "This spanking hurt me worse than it did you." And I'm like, "Yeah, right, buddy." And but Kathy and I made an agreement early on. Let's not lie to our kids. No empty threats. If we say that if you do this, this is what will be the result, let's make sure they can take that to the bank every time. And for some reason, that little one tip was helpful. Not perfect, it was helpful.
That's awesome. That kind of coincides with kind of the next topic to kind of run into, which is the general duties and responsibilities in the home. I'm going to hand it over to Sarah, or not Sarah, Kim. This is Kim, you're Sarah. But a thought I had, and so I'll give you time to think about it, is when I first got here, Sarah, you were stay-at-home, and then you transitioned to working. Whereas Kim, you're a stay-at-home mom, and so that kind of makes the makeup of duties and responsibilities different. So I'll hand it over to you to kind of, what is it like being a stay-at-home mom? What are the duties, responsibilities? How do we divide that out? Yeah.
So we naturally have landed in a traditional household, so don't come at me. So I do most of the cleaning, the cooking, the day-to-day stuff in the home, and that's just because I see it. Like, I see the dust, I see the clutter, I see what needs to be organized. So it's not that he doesn't do anything in the house. It's just that's under my management. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy cooking, like Jeff. I like trying out new recipes, new things. I love it when he can take the kids and I can do it uninterrupted. But I love having the kids, help cooking as well. But yeah, I do most of the inside of the house. He does a lot of the outside of the house stuff. And then any of our projects, like big projects of the house, like you said, we have a modest house, but we're trying to update it because he is that long-term vision person of, when we sell this house, we want it updated and we want to make it look nice. But yeah, we've had to trust each other in that too, because I joke that he's the Joanna Gaines of our relationship, because he's a visionary, and I'm just like, okay, I'm the more practical side of our relationship. He wanted to paint the wall black, so I was like, okay, and then I really liked it. So there's a lot of trust that's been built up. So once we do have projects that need to be done, he kind of manages all that. I'll help sometimes, but he usually goes for it. And I think that's all I have to say on that, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, just to be totally transparent, this is an area I had to grow in tremendously. I was not always, to be totally honest with you, for the first several years of our marriage, I am the selfish one. I am the spender. I was the one thinking about me. My wife has done a lot of the heavy lifting in making our marriage work. She always adjusted to me. And so, there's a thing that the Lord really had to kind of even just confront me on in some ways is, just because my position in the home brings a paycheck doesn't mean there's not a value on what she does. There's a huge value in what she does. The peace of mind that I have as a husband working here at the church, knowing that my 3 daughters are either at the school or with the other person who loves them more than anything, is invaluable, right? I find no pleasure whatsoever in cooking. I think it takes all the magic out of it. I want to show up, tell you what I want, and you do your thing, and then I'm satisfied. But that doesn't mean I won't cook. She does girl nights every once in a while, or goes and does things, and they're probably getting a frozen pizza, but they're none the wiser of it. But no, I handle almost everything outdoors. Mowing, snow removal, gutter cleaning, all that sort of stuff. Any major projects on our house, I'm either working towards how do I get this accomplished, or I'm going to take care of getting it hired out. And I never put her in the position of having to negotiate or deal with them. I want to be taking care of all of that. Like she said, I'm for whatever reason, there's a part of my brain that really thinks future forward. Probably my anxiety, but I just never want her to have to deal with that. And one thing I'll say too is we talk almost every year. What things would we like to see done in the house? Where can we improve all of that? And we just sit and we have a discussion. And I asked her, hey, do you feel like, is it too much for you to think about painting this room while I'm at work? Is that something I need to step in and do? And then another thing too is we both clearly have defined lanes. For whatever reason, we're like a couple from the 1950s. We can just do our thing. But just because we have clearly defined lanes doesn't mean we don't overlap. There are so many times I'm in a rush, I forget to get the trash to the curb, or I forgot to clean something out, or I forgot to do it. And we had to grow in this. We now have a communication and a grace for one another in our marriage, where just because I had to fill in a gap of what is normally her responsibility doesn't mean I'm keeping score. If it's ever communicated, hey, I took out the trash for you, it's for peace of mind of me, not, hey, I'm going to need that back at something. You know what I mean? again, we're 11 years into marriage. We started out polar opposites of each other. And it's been a continuous renewal of our hearts, our minds. Me, honestly, she was more centered and more servant-hearted than I was. And coming together and just being like, hey, we have our responsibilities. We know who each other is. We know our gifts. We know our talents. But how do we also just cover for one another? And then the one last thing I'll add is, whenever I get home, there's like this whole culture of things that these 4 women have figured out. And one of the things this is something the Lord's really had to provoke me on. I come home and I just ask her most of the time is, what do you need? Do you need an extra hand cooking? Do you need me to distract these 3 little monsters so that you can just get some things done? You know what I mean? And I would encourage any husband, especially if your wife stay at home, coming home and simply asking the question, what do you need, can go a very long way. So with that, I'll hand it over to Pastor Jeff and Sarah.
Me, okay. Yes, as you know, I joke about it a lot, but like Jeff does the cooking in our home. He's much better at it than I am. Listen, I can cook. I can do it. But I cook for survival, and Jeff cooks because it's fun, okay? So I'm like, go make some taquitos. It's okay. Go put them in there. The boys all know how to use the air fryer at this point. But seriously, we have definitely different roles than we're very traditional, but at the same time not, because we make he's in the kitchen jokes, because I'm not in the kitchen. So I do most of the cleaning, most of the dishes, laundry, those types of chores. He does do the dishes sometimes after he cooks. I'll come home and I'm like, oh, that was wonderful. The dishes are done, I don't have to do them. It is different because when we first came here, I was a stay-at-home mom. And the kids were little. Judah was barely walking when we moved here, and now he's 9. So it's crazy to think that. But being a stay-at-home mom versus a working mom is a whole new lane for me that my work-home life balance we're still figuring it out. I'm in the 3rd year of working 2nd year of working full-time, and it's definitely still a work in progress. I will say Jeff is amazing. He wakes up in the morning and he cooks breakfast for all of us and lunch for the boys and I every day, and we eat very well. So that is a blessing. And then, like I said, I usually do laundry. I am not great at it, let's not lie, but I do it. It does get done. We might have to pull socks out of the basket, but they're there, they're clean. But laundry, cleaning, but now at this point in our lives too, with me working full-time, him working full-time, we are having to teach our kids more responsibilities, right? I do their laundry, but they put it away. They help with the dishes. They help clean up after the dog. They help clean the toy room or the table off, or, those types of things. So I know that I can't do it all, especially now with working full-time. I would literally lose my mind. So the fact that Jeff helps a lot, the boys are starting to help more, and they like it sometimes. Sometimes they like it. We're teaching Levi to cook. We're teaching Simon to cook. I also grew up in a household where my dad cooked, and my brother also cooks. So ladies, find you a man that can cook. But just saying, what else? I will say there are times that I wake up and Jeff's in the kitchen cooking and it's snowing, and I will secretly put on all the snow gear and go outside and plow the driveway, and he hates it.
I feel like it makes me look like a scumbag. I'm like, hey, get in here. All my neighbors like, this guy's in there sleeping while his wife's shoveling the driveway.
It's fun, I like it.
I'll just, your values are gonna drive your decisions. And I think Sarah and I, one of the things we just decided is that our kids aren't gonna eat as little as possible. We call them taquitos, burritos, and it's like nuggets. They'll do nuggets, burritos, and taquitos every once in a while, and almost never cereal. When we say, "Hey, you're having cereal this morning," they know, "Hey, Dad slept in or he isn't feeling well," because we've made it a priority to provide the best quality food to our kids as possible, just because of what I've been through health-wise. Outside of really, this thing's coming out of my shirt. It keeps going lower and lower. So outside of the please don't touch the snowblower or the lawnmower rule, we kind of, we flow in and out. I feel like the same mentality we have for the church is something I adopted years ago. I used to be intimidated and talk myself out of all kinds of stuff because I thought it was above me. But I kind of took on a saying in my heart and mind, which is there's nothing above me and there's nothing beneath me. There's nothing that's too low for me to do, and there's nothing, like if the Lord calls me to do it and it needs to be done, I can go to, we call it YT Technical College, which is YouTube. Yep. I can figure it out. And if there's somebody else who's doing it, then I can do it. And Sarah and I have been, like with car repairs. When I'm saying like, we call it California poor, where you're making a good salary, but you are like down to the penny, everything's expensive. So everything from working on the car to lawn work to outside. And then we share inside duties. What's up? Yeah, remodeling a house. Like we share everything. My deal is, okay, so here's my deal. You ready? Just don't make me put away the laundry. That's kind of it. And I'll just, like if we're just getting in the nitty gritty, I'll just communicate, hey, we call them, I'm almost out of my A pairs, which is the good underwear. And then you're like, hey, I'm getting to those other ones that I should have thrown away 2 years ago. But outside of that, there's no grace. There's no shame. I mean, like I want to preach the gospel inside my home, you know. And if my wife has an area where things are falling short, you know, the mission statement of my life is come to me, all you are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. And Sarah does a lot, and she has a hard job, and I do a lot, and I have a hard job, and we honor, I think the assumption that she's doing her best, even when, and I'm doing my best, even seasons where we feel like we're falling short. There just doesn't need to be motives assigned. Raising kids is hard. Life is hard, and I'm not up there holding like a scorecard, like 7, 8. It's like, hey, kindness is number one. Kindness is number one in our home. That we're going to be kind to one another, and we're going to help one another, and we're going to work together. And it's really more of the example that we're setting for our boys of what they should expect out of marriage, what they should expect out of, the relationship they have with a wife. It's a relationship of cooperation where our desire to serve one another makes whatever structure there is work. One size does not fit all. You have one?
Just for the women, and even for the men too, I would say, Nick is asking a question. Don't be afraid to ask for help, right? Like if I'm struggling, I'm like, listen, you're on your B pairs. Like the A pairs are downstairs in the basement, they're clean. But like, don't be afraid to be vulnerable and say, listen, I'm struggling in this area. Like, I need some help right now. It will get better, right? Because we cover for each other. So like if he's struggling with something, I'm like, I got it. I can go make some bacon and some eggs. I got that. I can do that. I can make steak. Like I can do those types of things if he's like had a hard day or he's late or he's got a meeting or whatever it is. Or if I'm struggling, if I had a rough day, to be able to communicate that, you have to be vulnerable with your spouse and not think like, oh shoot, he's gonna hold up the -1 sign because I'm not doing my end of the bargain, right? It is a partnership. We work together on this. And I would encourage husbands and wives to not keep score. That will really hurt your marriage. And you're gonna have to be proactive about it because I think it's kind of, especially if you're new in marriage, sometimes it's like, well, he's supposed to take the trash out and he didn't do that, so now I have to do it, right? Like, I don't care about taking the trash out because I know that we are a team, we work together, and he's got my back and he covers for me, and I will cover for him.
She will play Jenga with a garbage can. Have you guys ever seen that, how you stack things on the garbage can? And also at the same time, husbands, can I just throw one shot across the bow? If you don't want your wife to act like your mommy, then don't act like a child.
Hand it over to PT.
Yeah, I didn't know if we were going to take all the time. We got 1 minute. So, yeah, I'll say this. I've been too old-fashioned. You guys have been a great challenge for me watching your marriages. And Kathy, we've been too old school. Kathy is such a servant, and I've worked hard on the road and then with the church and come home and want to just kick back and relax and let her do everything. And she's such a servant and don't complain. I've let her. And now this season of my life, the last few years, and the boys being up and gone, and me doing my part has been a real challenge. I have learned this: don't ever ask your wife what time supper will be ready while she's still mowing the yard. And so, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right, we better stop. We better stop.
Is it time?
I had to get one joke in there, one.
No, we're going to hand it over to Jeff. He's gonna
All right. There is, if your heart and mind is to serve Jesus, right? That if we're both following after Christ and we want the gospel to be revealed further in us, we want God's character to be revealed further in us. If you are both pursuing Christ, and I'm just going to say real quick, the structure doesn't necessarily, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, because there has to be structure, but it won't be the most important thing. I think a servant's heart and a servant's attitude, and the idea of when my boys say, what do you do? And I said, I wake up and I start serving, and then I go to bed. There is never a time where the idea that it's about you, it should be about you, is feeling sorry for yourself and being punitive. It says love keeps no record of wrongs. That love isn't boastful. Love isn't over the top. I don't raise my voice with my wife. Every once in a while, I'm like, hey, like, not right now. You know, she wants to talk it out right then. I'm like, hey, just give me a minute. Let me clear my head. But the idea that we're serving one another, if we're serving in the home, we'll be serving in the church and we'll be serving at work. But I would say that it starts in the home, and that everything that's preached from this stage, this platform, everything that's preached from this platform, the foundation is the home life. And so if you're going to preach at work, preach at home. If you're going to preach at the store, preach at work too. And I would say, like, the gospel needs to be seen in our daily lives and our marriages and the way we love our kids, the way we forgive, the way we accept responsibility. Become an expert at apologizing. Sorry doesn't work. Say, I am sorry that I impacted you in this way, and I could see, be an expert at apologizing in the home. Can you stand with me? Hold up. I'll talk to you after. We need to be humble and experts at apologizing. You guys ready? Let's pray. Lord, I just pray over every marriage in this room. God, I just pray for your spirit and your presence. Lord, I just pray that even now, Lord, if there is any strife or tension in any of the relationships in this room, Lord, whether it's marriages or siblings or father and daughter, Lord, I pray that as we both pursue Christ, Lord, that you would bring healing as we humble ourselves, as we make ourselves small, as we say, we're small and you're big, God. I just pray, Lord, that you would bring healing in this room. And God, and as we press on to next week, God, and Marriage with a Mission is wrapping up, Lord, I just pray that if there is any couples that are struggling in this room, that they'd reach out and get counseling. Lord, please. Lord, that you would, again, point them to couples who could mentor them and help them along the way. In your name, Jesus. Amen. God bless you guys. You are dismissed. I will either see you for recharge or next Sunday morning.